Crafty Babes. Andrea here again to share another look inside my 2017 Project Life album. I have already done part 1, which is weeks 1 through 10, so I hope you check that out if you haven't already. So we're going to start with week 11 and we're going to see how far we can go. I have only completed up through about mid-August, and the rest of those pages are prepped, which I've done a video on. So if I don't link it here at the end of the video or in the description, then you can just search some recent videos of mine for how to prep your pages in batches. So I hope that maybe that helps if you feel like you're a little behind. Maybe it certainly did help me when I was feeling super behind. So for now, we're just going to start with week 11 and we'll see how far we go. So this is actually 2 separate pages. Actually, let me grab a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock. That'll probably be better than my 8.5 by 11 that was not really working. So here is this is just a design F, which I use a lot because when I've got too many photos, I wouldn't say too many, when I've got a lot of 3x4 photos and I want to use 3x4 cards, this is a perfect layout because it's got 1 4x6 and all the rest are 3x4s. So it's one of those layouts that you can just get all your 3x4s if that's what you have a majority of for that week. This week I had no 4x6 photos, so it just worked out to where I could use this as my 4x6 and then I just used all my other 3x4s. And you know, if you've seen any of my pages, that I like to make sure that the color is balanced. And so that's one of the main, one of the main things that I work on when I'm putting my pages together is making sure that there's enough white space that's balanced and enough darks that are balanced and enough color. So yeah, my colors here, obviously, as you can see, are oranges and teals, which worked out really well because they look so good together. Now that I'm re-looking at this. Who knew? Orange and teal. Anyway, yeah, that's about it for that. Sometimes I'm not going to have much to say about my pages, so if you have questions that maybe I don't cover, please ask in the comment section and I will get back to you. I love doing big photos, and Marshall got this really cute haircut. He wanted a high side part and he wanted to be able to comb his hair and use product, and I loved his little face because this is what he looked like before. He was, wearing the hat and his hair was so grown out. And then for him to want a nice haircut was fun. So I used some older things from the Wonder collection. These 2 pages are from Wonder, and then this is a Project Life card, and I think this is from the Maggie Holmes, one of the kits. I can never remember the names, but it was recent at the time. I just felt like it worked really well with the browns in here, and then his shirt and his shirt were red, and so I didn't really use any other supplies because it was already kind of busy. But photos like this, I've done a couple of tutorials on how to cut up your big photos to put them in pockets, and sometimes it does not work. So this happened to be kind of perfect where I was cutting into his face, but it was only his chin, and so it didn't really take away or make him look odd or like his face doesn't look weird or weird. I don't really know. Landscape photos obviously work really well, and it does work well with people when you cut at the right place. So if I were to have, had this down here and had to cut through his face to make it fit here, that would have obviously not worked and I would not have done that. So just, use your eye and see what feels right. Here's a couple of additional pages from this week. Matt took Marshall to the Lego store, and so they took pictures while they were there, and I used some LA Studio stuff that were just full of bright colors that was perfect for these photos. And then I saved the receipt and put it in this little pocket that I made. This card is just a whole card like this, and all I did was use my X-Acto knife and just slid it right here and then just tucked it behind. That's all. I didn't do anything special. And here I did, oh, this is a 6x8 layout that I did. Just, he had started wearing these glasses, and he was just so cool. And I had to document that. And here he's hanging out with some friends. I took them for a walk to the park, and they have been friends forever and ever. And these two are just super besties. We used to live 4 houses away from them, and we don't anymore, but we still do our best to do things with them and make sure that the two of them stay friends. And they do have class together, so that's good. So here we have they weren't in kindergarten here, but at the kindergarten playground that they both used to play on, they have this big, huge circle, and it's got all the letters of the alphabet. And so I had them each stand in front of the letter for their first name and took a picture of their feet. It was cute. Where are we? We're in March. We're in March. So, yeah, there's just a lot of kind of springtime stuff going on. The flowers in front of my house started to bloom. But of course I was getting sick. Just another photo, that photo of Marshall. And I took a picture of my feet in front of my letter. Charlie snuggles. Gibson here is supposed to be doing chores. And then some of the things that I really love to do is just make lists when there's a lot of photos and not necessarily a lot of space to journal about everything. I like to just do some listing. Now here, this is a list just about things that Marshall is into right now, but you could use this for, you know, numbering your photos and then saying, you know, photo number 1 is, you know, snuggles with Marshall, photo number 2, Gibson avoiding chores, like that kind of thing. So just, you know, kind of have to feel out what your photos and your page allows as far as journaling, and that's usually how I determine what I'm gonna journal about. And normally, like if I have a photo here that's kind of the full frame is taking up what the story is about, then I'll use the card next to it to tell the story. So here we were binge watching The Office a lot during this time, and then here I've documented about the shoes. And then like if it's open, I'll just journal about specific things. Like here, the rain kept us inside, which meant lots of crafty time, which there's not really a photo for that, but I still wanted to tell about that. So that is week 12. Here is week 13. You might see these throughout. I was screenshotting these little monthly markers from my friend Tara Rice. She would do this and then she'd post them, and I told her I was going to start stealing them and using them in my album. They're super clean and fun, and I just liked kind of having something that says the month, especially during the weeks that the months start on. So actually, I think this is its own. Yeah, that's its own. So this is just week 13 as far as like family photos. Oh, you know what? Yeah, and pretty much the only thing that we did this week was we went for Marshall's open house and book fair, and so like these are all about that. The boys walked back from the park for that day. He loves doing chores, and we played a lot of fast track. So, again, just kind of finding the supplies that go with random colors that happen throughout the week. And then here is all about me building the garden at our old house. And let's see. So I did stories on Instagram, and I drew out my plans, and then I got my assistant. And then Charlie was over here in the grass supervising, and then I started to execute and then what I planted. And so I used a kit from In a Creative Bubble. I think it's called Bloom and Grow or just Bloom or something like that. And she had a lot of these little pieces for gardening, which was so perfect. This is an empty page, and I explain this in some of my other videos, but I do randomly have blank pages because it just depends on what photos come next, and if they don't fit in the configuration that I'm looking for, then I don't use it. I just move on to a new configuration. And this is the same configuration, but I think I may have done this as a project separately and didn't know what was going to come next. So this will end up just probably either staying blank, or I'll fill it in with some cards and no photos. But this is one of my very favorite layouts. This was using a One Little Bird collection, and I just loved the colors went perfect with this adventure that we took to the park with the boys. And Gibson let me take photos of him, and I have this gorgeous one of him like walking into the sunset. And Charlie liked to hide in the tall weeds, and it was just fun, and the colors were great. So one of my favorites because it was just simple and the colors are pretty. That's really, it doesn't take much for me. I enjoy color and fun photos. Oh, this was a fun one. I took Marshall. I didn't take Marshall. I was a chaperone at Marshall's field trip with his school. We went to downtown Sacramento and Old Sacramento, and I got this really fun jump shot of all the kids that were in our group. It was just so much fun. We had a blast. He and his friends on the bus and eating lunch, and me and my friend who's that's Jovi. That's our friend that lives down the street, and that's her mom. And we try as hard as we can to always make sure we get to go to the field trips, and that way we can have time together because we never get time together, just the two of us. So we had some fun on the bus. But this is all using Ellie's Studio stuff and using the new Stanley stamps when they came out, the outline stamp and the solid. It was really super fun to just use all the new fun stamps and stuff for this layout. And here we had a lot of fun just being outside this weekend, and this was just the first couple of weeks of April, so I believe this is all still the same week. I'm pretty sure, like the end of March to the beginning of April. Again, all Ellie Studio. That is probably not a surprise. But then another blank page that I'll eventually possibly fill in. I think I've said this about all of this. This is a fun one. They're all fun. Why would we do this if it wasn't fun, right? Let me just think about some things here that I did that were different. And I'm looking, and I feel like it's just kind of the same. I guess what I find fun about this one is just that it has all the colors, because this was a really, there's just a lot of different colors in these photos. There's blues and there's burgundies and greens and crazy random colors. So that being the challenge, I think I find pages like this just more fun. But there's really nothing extra special about this, so I'm going to move on to week 15. Week 15, I'm using a Gossamer Blue kit that has a lot of red and green and blue, which was so perfect for this particular week's worth of photos. Lots of fun things happened this week. We went to the park a lot, and Gibson got fitted for a tux for a prom that he was going to. He's got his permit, so he's the one driving. Actually, yeah, he's driving here because he had his first lesson. And in California, you have to have one lesson professionally before you can drive with your parents. So he had his first lesson, and then he, of course, wanted to take me on all the errands. So after that, he pretty much drove everywhere. Matt got this really nice photo of me and the boys playing Fast Track together. And we saw Force Awakens. So lots of fun stuff. Oh yeah, and then the picture of our growth chart on the side of the wall. This is just still using the same Gossamer Blue kit, but I had some extra photos from one particular day when Gibson and I went to the mall together. He drove. It was his first time driving outside of the town that we live in, which was fun. So I took a picture of, you know, like the little dashboard with his leg, and then we went to Dutch because he really was into Dutch, and so I tried it for the first time. I wasn't really impressed, but that's just me because probably of what I got, and I don't really like energy drinks, and I got a Rebel and I didn't really like it, but that's okay. But we always get Wetzel's pretzels when we go to the mall because they're so delicious, and they have salty buttery ones, and then they also have cinnamon sugar ones, and I can basically eat the whole entire bag. They're so good. So this page was just all about that one trip we took to the mall. And that's all. I just loved using all the supplies. Super fun. This is Easter. This is Easter morning and afternoon. So this is our morning hunt that we did at home. And then we go to a family member's property and do a big, huge afternoon hunt with all of the kid cousins and stuff. So these two pages were quite challenging because again, you have all of these colors. And so I use a mishmash of Gossamer Blue and Maggie Holmes. So it was just a combination of trying to get colors and florals and things to work together. And I feel like I did a pretty fair job. These are not my favorite pages, but they work for, they definitely work for what I need them to work for. So even though these aren't my favorite pages, they work, and they show the season, and they show the colors, and they're bright and springy, and it's fun. And I had fun trying to find colors and patterns and things that all worked well together. So I think we're gonna end here. And I'll have another video of the rest of the album here fairly soon. But for now, I hope this has been fun for you to watch a little look inside my album. And we'll talk really soon. And thanks so much for watching.
Hey, Crafty Babes. You're all looking craftlicious today.
Talk to you really soon. Bye, guys.